When was the last time you saw someone score with a knuckleball free kick? We're going to take a look at why we're not seeing them anymore and explain a bit about how they work. The knuckleball peaked in the 2010s after that Ronaldo strike against Portsmouth in 2008 inspired academy players everywhere. Here's a young Mason Mount.
I tried to base my free kick on Ronaldo, hit the ball by the valve and it moves. So what do you do? Top corner.
Now, no ball is perfectly aerodynamic, so as it travels it creates ever-changing pockets of turbulent air, causing that unpredictable movement. Football's most prolific free-kick taker, Juninho Pernambucano, perfected the technique but didn't invent it. He was inspired by players from the 90s and even the 50s. So how do you do it? You have to hit the ball head-on with as short a contact time as possible so the ball doesn't spin. Hitting by the valve helps with that short contact time, as it's the hardest part of the football. So why don't we see knuckleballs much anymore? It's because players are being told not to shoot from dead ball situations because the XG is so low. In fact, as Opta shows here, since the 08-09 season there's been a 10% reduction in players shooting from free kicks in the Premier League. And in 23-24, a record low of 11 free kicks found the back of the net. And the knuckleball, though spectacular, is imprecise, which is why it's becoming a thing of the past.
Good evening, this is Kick-Off on TalkSport and you're in the company of Darren Lewis, Danny Murphy and me, Natalie Sawyer. And we are with you until 10, then you've got the Sports Bar coming your way. Just a reminder of the breaking news that we just brought you. TalkSport's Martin O'Neill, yeah, well, you can still call him that, is the Celtic manager now until the end of the season, replacing Wilfred Nancy after his ill-fated 33 days in charge. TalkSport will be aiming to hear from Martin as well on White and Jordan tomorrow from 10 a.m. But of course he had a successful interim spell, didn't he? But Wilfred Nancy then came in for 8 games, only winning 2 of them, losing the other 6, and he lost his job today. We'll talk more about that a little bit later on. But Martin O'Neill back in the hot seat then at Celtic Park. It's now time for us to bring you an odds update with Ladbrokes.
Odds update on TalkSport with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
A very good evening to Chris Wood, which I'm sure it's been a very busy day for you, Chris, and Ladbrokes.
Yeah, it's not really stopped today, I've got to be honest. This is like my relaxing time now talking to you. So, yeah, no, great.
Well, thank you for joining us then in your relaxing time. Let's talk about, first of all, Manchester United then. Ruben Amorim gone. The question now is who comes in as the permanent boss. So who are you backing at Ladbrokes?
Well, we put the market up earlier, and we saw lots of different bets for lots of different people, which kind of indicates there isn't like a real standout candidate. We got Oliver Glasner is a favourite at the moment at 5-2. Darren Fletcher's in at 11-4, but obviously that's the interim angle. Probably he'll be there to the end of the season. Maresca's 9-2. I think we laid a bit of money on him early on, and it sort of eased off a bit. Gareth Southgate's in at 6-1. And we did actually take a few decent-sized bets on him early on, so that could be an interesting one. I know he's sort of not fancied, but yeah, Michael Carrick's there could be another interim option at 7-1. Xavi at 12-1, Iraola at 16s, Marco Silva at 16s. I think is probably an interesting shout. Unai Emery, I can't see him leaving Villa, but he's in at 16s as well. And Kieran McKenna, who's linked quite heavily with it, I think last time out, he's in at 20-1.
So I suppose looking at the end of this season, where do you see, when looking at the Premier League outrights, where Manchester United might finish, and just in general the Premier League season too?
Yeah, I know. Well, obviously it was a big week in the outright. So it's a really good weekend for Arsenal. They now want a 3 to win it outright. Man City a 3-1. Villa, obviously everyone's sort of surprise surprise team of the season. They're 28-1. Bad weekend for Liverpool, 66-1 now, and Chelsea out to 250-1. Really interesting sort of market for top 4 now. Villa are 4-11, Liverpool out to 4-7, Chelsea are sort of holding steady at 7-4, Man U are 9-2, but I just can't see it with the upheaval. I think Newcastle are the interesting sort of outsiders there. They're 8-1, but it's weird to think of them as sort of with all the sort of upheaval that they've had recently as being the sort of steady ship. But I think that they are. Like, they've got a settled team. They've got some good players. I think 8-1's a fair bet there.
And we've obviously brought the news that Martin O'Neill now is back in charge until the end of the season at Celtic. So are you able to come up with a list of potential successors full-time come maybe next season then?
Well, what we've got is a market on the manager at the start of next season, and obviously with the news that he's taking over now to the end of the season, he's favourite at 1-2. Sean Maloney's out to 5-1. Ange was quite popular when we had the market up earlier for the next manager, but now he's out to 8-1. Craig Bellamy 10-1, and then you've got the Robbie Keane 12-1, Kieran McKenna again 14-1, and Kjetil Knutsen, who seems to get linked with every single sort of European job. He's 14-1, the manager of Bodo Glimt. He's obviously done an insane job there. So yeah, he's an interesting option.
All right, some great markets there, and coming up a bit later on Kickoff, we'll be picking our Ladisfaction magic moments of the weekend. So it's your time, Chris, to tell us yours.
Well, mine was obviously Plymouth Argyle winning 3-0 at home to Burton Albion. It's Wonderful. Been a little while, but and getting out of the relegation zone yet. No, I'm hoping for a good second half of the season. But it's a bit Route 1, but it had to be Harrison Reed's equaliser for Fulham. It's goal. I think it's goal of the season, and like even before you take into account the sort of the time it was made and the situation in the game. So yeah, definitely Harrison Reed.
Yeah, terrific strike it was. Listen, Chris, thank you very much. Relax, enjoy your evening now.
Absolutely. Cheers, you too.
That was Ladisfaction. We'll be picking our very own magic moments of the weekend very shortly. That's all thanks to Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over. Gambleaware.org.
Odds update on TalkSport with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus. Gambleaware.org.
We will pick our moments a little bit later on in the show, but we are going to go back to the main story here in the Premier League, and that is the sacking of Ruben Amorim after just over a year in charge of the club. I wanted to come to, because you mentioned Gareth Southgate, Danny, to Alex Crook. Obviously someone you think could do a good job at Manchester United. Is that why you brought him up again?
No, we were having a little joke there because when he first got the job, Amorim, and then he started poorly, I did say, because I mentioned Southgate being a safer pair of hands, and I still stand by that. I think they'd be in a better position. But I understand the fans' negativity around of it because of the pragmatist type of style that he plays, and I just felt that's what United needed. But no, I think now there's better options. So no, that was like a little personal joke. I think we
weren't in on that.
I think taking their time is the right thing. I take your point, of course, where there's success attainable and things to achieve now. If you really believe someone can take you forward in the next 3 to 5 years that you've got to wait a few months for, then it's worth the wait. But it's fascinating. I think when any big club loses amazingly, we've hardly touched on Chelsea yet because I know this is more recent, but a lot of the big clubs seem to be going through managers a lot more quickly than they used to, and it becomes really intriguing for us in the media doing what we do to think about who might go in there and do something special. Right now, I just think United need to get back to what we talked about earlier. System the players like, they're more comfortable with, get their players back fit and back from AFCON, and they've got a good chance because they're not in Europe. It makes a massive difference, especially come February, March, even April, because I expect Arsenal, City, Villa, Liverpool and Chelsea to all still be involved. So Man United in that respect, every week you can plan, you can refresh, re-energise, get ready for the next one. It's a massive, massive plus for them.
You said it both earlier on about this season. This league is a bit bizarre, maybe a bit average, like you were saying. They're sixth right now. Is that a false position for you?
For me, yes, I think it is. Only because, and I don't just want it to maybe cast aspersions on Man United, because if you look at Liverpool, for example, Liverpool had a run of form which was their worst, I said earlier, since the 50s, and they're in the top 4. And that kind of gives you an indication of how average is probably too strong and a little bit unfair, but
bizarre.
It's a very bizarre league this time around. But it does present United with an opportunity that they could never have believed they would have, given their run of form and their inability to string wins together under Ruben Amorim. So this is as you were saying, Danny, the fact that and Alex was saying the same thing. The fact that they don't have someone to come in now suggests that maybe this was not in their thinking, but it's a great opportunity for them. And actually, this presents a real opportunity, a moment of excitement, if you like, for Manchester United fans rather than a moment of pessimism.
I agree.
I know we weren't privy to everything that's gone on at Manchester United. Obviously, we don't know if there has been this fallout, potentially with Jason Wilcox. The clip we played after that 1-1 draw where he mentioned he wanted to be the manager rather than the coach. Do you have an issue with that in what he said? Because that's something that everyone's picking up on now.
It's an issue if the goalposts have changed and the role has changed from the one he was told he was going to have. So if some of the decisions he was told he was going to be involved in and have a say on is now taken away from him, yeah, of course I understand. The problem is, and we spoke about this with Maresca, we've done it with Salah, you can't air your dirty linen in public. You've got to go and have that conversation and say, well, hold on, I'm not having that. You know, you told me the one thing and now you're saying that whatever the other thing you can't have, or whether it be monies they've withdrew, whether it be dictating formations, we never know. It could be anything. So if he's now, or recruitment especially in terms of his say on a player, if he's now feeling that way, well, he can walk.
And the thing is, to just follow up on Danny's point, it's all about PR in general terms. If you almost can air your dirty linen if you are Salah, for example, if you're delivering, or if you have a body that suggests you have delivered. Amorim hasn't delivered. So to Danny's point, he's absolutely right. You can't, if you're in a position like Amorim, you've not done anywhere near enough to be calling it on with the people.
Well, even Maresca, who's done a lot more, and arguably produced this young team's growing. Okay, a little bit inconsistent, but the reality is he was in a reasonable position of strength. 2 trophies, Champions League football back. Players look like they're developing, and even he got slapped by the wayside.
Well, look, we are going to talk more about this, wrapping up the Manchester United talk this hour in the next section. But just as a reminder, we have all 10 Premier League games coming your way this week, live across the TalkSport network. And Manchester United's next game is a trip to Turf Moor. That is live on Wednesday night. And a reminder of the other breaking news that has emerged this hour. It is that Martin O'Neill is back at Celtic until the end of the season. They've announced that Sean Maloney and Mark Fotheringham will join him as assistants too. The former Celtic midfielder Paul Lambert will be joining us just after 8 to give us his thoughts on that. You're tuning in to Kick Off on TalkSport with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over, gambleaware.org.
26k for 2026 on TalkSport.
This is Kickoff on TalkSport, and how about this for 2026? TalkSport is giving you the chance to win a massive £26,000. At 12 o'clock this Friday, we're going to be calling one lucky winner with a guaranteed payment made that day. So you could be that lucky listener who could pocket 26 grand. 26k for 2026 doesn't sound too bad, does it? Here's how you enter, and you might want a pen and paper for this one. For your chance to win, you can text the word win, I should say, to 83338. So that's text the word win to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or you can call the following number, which is where you might need this pen and paper. 0343 423 9761. That's 0343 423 9761. Lines close at 12 p.m. Friday, and that's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. UK residents only, I'm afraid. It's 18 and over. This is a network promotions. Full T's and C's can be found at talksport.com/win. So for your chance to win once more, you can text the word win to 83338. Good luck. As I said, this is Kickoff on TalkSport, and it is Danny Murphy, Darren Lewis and me, Natalie Sawyer, with you right now. And we are still talking about Manchester United, and perhaps we should get your thoughts on who's next for Manchester United. We know Darren Fletcher will be in charge of the game against Burnley. There's talk of perhaps another interim manager coming in after him, but it might all come down to how he gets on. We will see. Who do you think is best suited to take over at Old Trafford? Danny, have you got a suggestion?
Why did you come to me first?
Put you on the spot.
Well, as I said to Crookie, I think someone like Tuchel, who's obviously a top manager and managed big clubs, ticks a lot of the boxes. But I do worry about is because he's got to that level now, will he be able to work with under the hierarchy he's going to be under? Are you just going to cause more chaos and more? Yeah. So that would be he's the one that would spring to mind. I mean,
I do know for a fact that he spoke to them first time round. My understanding was that he wasn't too impressed with the setup.
Okay, and that makes sense. And also, he could, they can't have him till if England go late. It was interesting in terms of best in class, who's out there at the moment. I think it was Simon who said earlier today that Unai Emery would be the standout.
Yes,
and that makes sense. But he's I think he signed a new deal, didn't he? And he's got 3 years left, and it would cost a fortune to get him out. And would he want to leave a club?
Well, that was what I was going to ask you.
Well, a club that's actually in a better position that he has pretty much control over to a degree.
That's the key thing, control. Yeah. Because, as I said before, you don't have now too many clubs where Emery has the control that he has at Aston Villa. He worked with Damien Vidigani. He is the guy. Emery's the master of all he surveys, and if you leave and you go to United, you go there with your eyes wide open that you're walking into a system where lots of different people have a voice in terms of what you do, how you play. You're the head coach, you're not a manager.
The one that seems obvious, and Crookie alluded to it, is with Glasner coming out of contract, his success in his previous role, never mind the one at Palace, and the fact he's not rigid on systems. If you only got to listen to his interviews for him to talk about that. And he did. Frankfurt generally played 4-3-3 anyway.
Yeah.
So if you think about him as a character, I don't know him, obviously, and he's probably got more fire in his belly than we think, but conducts himself in a very calm way, been around the block a little bit. You don't see him as the type of manager that, as long as he knew what he was going into, he'd crack on with it.
Yeah.
So that would be where I'd be thinking now.
Is there any... the reason I bring this up is actually Hugh Wozencroft. It was on TalkSport 2 earlier, and Manchester United fan, we were chatting to him earlier. He felt that Glasner is more of the underdog manager, like a Thomas Frank is the underdog manager, who is struggling right now at Tottenham. Could that be an issue?
But he's only saying that because of the clubs he's managed.
Yeah, of course.
And so Frankfurt punched above their weight in terms of winning the Europa League, maybe. Still a massive club, massive following. But yeah, not one of the big dogs in Germany, if you like. And obviously Palace not there. But how do you become somebody who's proven at a big club unless somebody gives you that?
Absolutely.
Are United the type of club that should be giving managers that chance? You could argue no, but the reality is, since Fergie, they've tried everything. They've gone for Solskjaer, inexperienced. They've gone for Mourinho, the best in class.
Van Gaal.
Van Gaal, God, I mean, you can't get more experience than him and successful. So,
Dan, would you say that sometimes they've gone for the right man at the wrong time?
Possibly, yeah. Possibly. Whatever they do, whichever way they go, there's no guarantee. Because the expectation of Manchester United fans worldwide is so big and so high, and they've been so lucky in the success they've had for many, many years up until recent years under Fergie. What is success unless you're winning the league or the Champions League?
Absolutely.
And they are a million miles off that.
Villa fans obviously won't want us talking about Unai Emery at all. Of course they
No,
won't.
but it's a reality. I don't think it'll happen.
No, I don't either. But you were mentioning there about he's a manager. He'll want control. Is there not an element of, well, maybe Manchester United have to be more flexible? Because look at Arsenal, for example. Arteta is the manager.
Yeah.
I know it all came down to Edu leaving, but once Edu left, Arteta resumed more responsibility. Could that not be a way forward for Manchester United if they needed someone like an Emery?
Well, it could be, but the problem is that there are lots of chefs, lots of cooks, if you like, at Old Trafford. So even though it could be a way forward, would they want that to be their way forward? And also, you know, look, on the plus side for United, Emery is doing superb work with his hands tied behind his back. If you think about the fact that he can't go into the market and get the players that he wants, and a lot of people would say PSR is almost...
He's such a good coach.
But he is such a good coach. He improves players. You think about where he picked them up from, the style of play, the man management, the attention to detail that has helped him to get that club punching above their weight. We spend so many shows now saying, are they title contenders? Why? Because of what he's done with them. To start off with the same players he inherited from Steven Gerrard. He almost, you could argue, picked them up in a similar place, relatively speaking, to where Manchester United are now. So he would be a good fit, but would he want to trade what he has, which is control, to walk into a situation? Bear in mind, he walked away from Newcastle. My understanding was he went for some conversations and there was just so many voices and he just decided, no, that's not for me. That's not the way he works. But if you give him a situation where he has control, my goodness, can he make it work?
But I think your point's fair, Natalie. And then brilliant businessmen who have billions of pounds.
They adapt.
They do adapt, and maybe they change strategy a little bit. You know, do they decide that somebody who comes in with a bit more seniority has a bit more say? It's possible. I think it's unlikely, but it's possible. And then if you're not going to go down that road, whoever comes in isn't going to tick the box for every fan, is it? You know, Man United fans are expecting now the Messiah to come through the door. I mean, I think most fans would be happy with Tuchel. Do you please the masses and give in a little bit, or do you stick to what you think you're doing?
Dan, do you think Tuchel might look at the England squad, which I think will get to finals in the next 2 or 3 major tournaments, and think, I can do this. I can do this with my eyes closed?
No. As in the England job?
Yeah.
No, I think he thinks, if I can have a good World Cup, great. Then I want to get back to coaching every day. Managers love it. When I've spoken to them, they want to be day in, day out.
But see, I agree with you. But what I do think about... No, but you cannot push Tuchel around. You cannot... Tuchel is a guy... I covered his Chelsea...
No, but I'm on about...
team.
Yeah, but I'm on about as a younger coach who's not nearing the end of his journey. The thought of 4 more years with the FA and England, having the players every now and again, compared to a big risk, Man United, you know, he might have to just bite his tongue here and there. It's not even a money thing, is it? Imagine he brings them success.
Well, you're right. He has said when the last international break in November, he was like, I'm gutted now, I have to wait. Like you say, because he loves being around the players.
Or he might just love getting paid for doing nothing.
But the thing about Tuchel...
He wouldn't like that. That sounds lovely.
Listen, Tuchel is an incredibly mature manager. He's an incredibly mature manager. He's a guy who can inspire players. He can come up with systems to get teams consistent and winning things, as he did with Chelsea. And there were points at Chelsea where they were in a mess, and he was the man to basically guide them through it, even when they had political issues with Roman Abramovich. And he was a brilliant ambassador for that club, and he could be an outstanding acquisition for Manchester United, but I don't think he would want to walk into that setup. No. And that's a problem. And I don't think they want somebody for that setup. It might be that they change, but I'm not so sure.
Just a couple of names quickly to throw out. Enzo Maresca, neither of you have mentioned him, out of work now.
Well, I understand the link, but if the link was that strong, then why would they be looking for an interim?
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough.
Ancelotti was a shout.
Pochettino?
For me, Pochettino would be a really good shout. Built superb defences. We were talking off air about the defences he built at Southampton and at Tottenham as well. In fact, when he initially went to Tottenham, they had the joint best defensive record in the league with Manchester United. First season. Second season, the best defence outright. The problem was they didn't build on that, and obviously it all
And he plays a 4-2-3-1 generally. Poch is a great shout.
He would be outstanding for them because it's the defensive base they need. They can score goals.
Yeah.
Cunha, Mbeumo. Sesko hasn't scored for, 9 games? But I think that under Pochettino, he can find that
even
strike.
If they get another strike.
Yeah, absolutely. But they could have that defensive base that would be really strong under Poch.
Well, it's going to be fascinating then to see who comes in next at Old Trafford. But for more reaction to Ruben Amorim's sacking, make sure to tune into tomorrow morning's edition of the TalkSport Daily podcast as Flex, Angelina Kelly and Alex Crook delve into what next then for the club. That's available on all of your podcast platforms. So it's been a busy day in Manchester, but it's also been a busy day in Glasgow. We're going to find out exactly what's happened at Celtic with a new manager. Well, a new but familiar manager now, back in charge. That's next.
From the Toffees to the Tractor Boys, the Eagles to the Seagulls, Gunners, Bees, Hammers and Magpies, Premier League teams have got a load of crazy nicknames. Ever wondered where they came from? Let's start with Everton. They're dubbed the Toffees, but why? Well, because when the club was formed, just down the road there were 2 local toffee shops. Ye Ancient Everton Toffee House and Mother Noblet's Toffee Shop were big fan favourites. Next, they say if you can't beat 'em, join 'em, and that's exactly what Ipswich Town did when it came to their nickname. The term Tractor Boys used to be chanted by their opponents as a way of putting the team down for their farming background. But during one game back in the late 90s, Ipswich were 1-0 up and they decided to flip the script. 1-0 to the Tractor Boys, they sang, and a new nickname was born. Let's head to Leicester, famous for more than just a red, well, orangey cheese and Jamie Vardy. Leicestershire is also the birthplace of fox hunting, hence the Foxes. Next up, turns out apples are not the only fruit that don't fall far from the tree. Bournemouth's nickname, the Cherries, comes from the fact the club's stadium was originally built right next to a bunch of cherry orchards. This next story actually involves two club nicknames. It started with Crystal Palace. They were having an absolute nightmare run back in the early 70s. They'd been relegated after a terrible spell, and manager Malcolm Allison decided enough was enough. He wanted a new nickname, something strong, fast and destined for success. Something exactly like an eagle. But there's more to this one. Brighton were in search of a nickname too, and Palace finally gave them what they needed. In a heated match between the two back in 1976, Palace fans began chanting, "Eagles, Eagles." And some clever Brighton fans came up with the perfect reply, "Seagulls, Seagulls." Not all club nicknames have a crazy story though. Take the Gunners. That just comes from the fact a group of munitions workers in the Royal Arsenal factory in Woolwich set up the club in 1886. On the flip side, some nicknames seem simple, but there's a bit more to them, like West Ham. The Hammers is actually nothing to do with the ham part of the name. It comes from the fact the club used to be called Thames Ironworks FC and was made up of workmen and shipbuilders. So next time the away end's chanting their crazy nickname, you'll now know.
Good evening. This is Kickoff on TalkSport. I'm Natalie Sawyer, and with me this Monday evening, as always, it's Danny Murphy and Darren Lewis. So we spent an hour talking about Manchester United and the fact that Ruben Amorim has departed the club after being sacked earlier this morning. And then a few hours later, all change at Celtic. Wilfred Nancy, the experiment perhaps, lasted just 33 days and he then lost his job. And in the last hour, it has been announced that Martin O'Neill is back in charge once more after his successful interim charge before Nancy took over. He has now returned until the end of the season. I'm delighted to say joining us to talk more about Celtic, someone who knows the club very, very well. It is the former Celtic midfielder, Paul Lambert. Paul, good evening. How are you?
Hi, Natalie. How are you?
Very, very well. Thank you for joining us on a day where it was pretty chaotic.
Good.
Pretty chaotic for Celtic. But I guess let's talk about the contemporary. Let's talk about the now. Martin O'Neill back in charge once more. Good to have the stability of Martin back in charge once more.
I think he knows the club. He knows that football club is built on winning. It's not a project. It's not a development club. And I think the manager knows that. He understands it. And hopefully he gets them back on track because he certainly needs somebody. But I think the players as well have to take a look at themselves and get themselves going. And I think the manager coming back in, it stabilises everything right and hopefully it unites the fans with the club again.
Wilfred Nancy's tenure is the shortest serving of any permanent manager in the history of a Celtic Football Club. I don't want to be too damning, but how embarrassing has that period been, do you think, for the club?
I think it's been hugely disappointing. I just think when you go to Celtic, you have to realise that the club is built on winning, as I says. I think the Wilfred Nancy, when he used the word context and things like that, the Celtic fans were never going to buy into that. Never. Glaswegian people don't do it, and especially Celtic fans where if you have one bad pass, then you're getting criticised for it. There's so much pressure there. And I don't think, as I said before, it's not a development club or a project. You have to win football matches, and that's the nature of the beast up there. So I think he's got to take a bit of blame himself, try to buy time. You don't get time at Celtic or any big club. You have to win games.
Paul, were you surprised a little bit by the change in style so quickly after, because Martin went in 1-7 and 8. The team was going okay. I understand any manager wants to tweak and do his own little things. We've all experienced that. But when you change the style so drastically and then you lose a couple and stick by it, I mean, I don't know, we've seen it with other managers, obviously, down in the Premier League, but sometimes it's just not that difficult just to keep things ticking over for a while, don't you think?
I agree. Listen, you've been at a huge football club yourself, and I guarantee you that the only thing that you had in your mind was winning. And that's the same as myself, was you had to win games there. And that's, I think it was a bit, I'm not saying naive, coming into Celtic, but somebody should have told them, listen, when you come here, you have to win games. It doesn't matter who you're playing against, you have to win. I don't think he grasped that, Danny. I don't think he grasped that. And if they get into that and the team's winning, keep it the same and give yourself a bit of time that way. But I don't think he's changed it as much as what he did, and the substitutions that he was doing, and the crowd went behind him right from the off, really. So I think when you look at that, I think he caused your own problems with it, and I don't think he grasped how big the club was, you know.
Paul, you've managed one or two clubs in your time, and one of the things that struck me about Wilfred was that sometimes he appeared not to get the best advice in terms of the things he said in press conferences. Just from your time as being a manager, were there times when somebody would nudge you and say, listen, I wouldn't mention this or I wouldn't mention that, just to guide you in terms of press conferences?
Oh, damn, 100%. You need that little bit of guidance, and you've got to watch what you say, and one word gets blown out of context, especially in Glasgow, where I remember doing press conferences myself as a player, and I'd come out the press conference thinking, did I say that? Looking at the paper. Honestly,
you probably did, though.
You look in the paper. You look in the paper the next day and you think, I never said that. Yeah. You're like, what the hell? So there's that. I agree with you there, 100%. I think the PR have got to pull them and say, listen, this word context you're using about 50 times, forget it, because the Celtic fans aren't going to buy into it. And I think they've got to really grasp that. As I said before, it's a winning club where everybody has to. He wasn't a novice at it. He knew what he'd probably come into, but I just don't think he grasped how big the club was.
But Paul, when you look at the scenario, though, he only won 2 of his 8 games in charge, lost the other 6. But Celtic are second. They're 6 points off Hearts. Martin O'Neill, then back at the club, as we've all said, knows it very well, had a great spell in charge previously this season too. It's not over. He can surmount that 6 point, can't he? And perhaps go on and win the title once more?
Oh, without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, that he will be going. But there's no way he's going to go there and January. I'm pretty sure he said, okay, if I come and give me what I need in January.
The line's not the best there. So, Paul, thank you very much for joining us. Apologies, we have to cut it short there. The line just giving way at the end there. But
he does make a good point, though. I mean, 6 points is nothing.
No.
We're in early January.
Hearts won't forgive us for saying that. Of course they won't.
They play them, don't they? Not that long away, obviously, but
yeah, 25th
Martin will believe.
Well, Dan, sorry, just to go to you. I mean, you've been a player in a dressing room. You've had managerial changes. Yeah. What's the mindset when somebody is respected as a Martin O'Neill comes in to the dressing room?
Well, they obviously like him because they played for him a month or 2 ago, and they got lots of good results. So he's popular. You can tell that by the results. I think first and foremost, the buzz is not even about who's coming in, because they wouldn't have known straight away if Martin was coming back. The relief of him going. I know that sounds really harsh, but sometimes I'll start bringing up examples. But I've been in.
Oh, go on.
All right, I will.
New year, new day.
No, it's not new. I've talked about it before, and it's not disrespectful. It's just a difference in opinions on style. Yeah. And to be fair, I'm very grateful to Laurie Sanchez bringing me to Fulham, but he had a certain way of wanting to play, very long ball. You know, missing the midfield out, play for seconds, get lots of crosses in, and he had success with it. You know, he had success with it at Wycombe. He had success as a player. So I understood that that's what we had to try and do. And we did. But we kept failing and kept losing games. And mainly because we didn't have the personnel to play it. We had a lot of good footballers. We had Simon Davis, Stephen Davis, the Irish international. David Healy was up top. He was a technical goal-scoring player. We had Buatsa on the wing. We had Schmerten, who's a Russian captain. None of us were big. You know, I knew we were in trouble early on. I think in one of my first starts, I went to get it off the back 4 and I miscontrolled it or whatever. And he said to me, if you get it off the back 4 again, you're coming off. And I thought, has he even watched me play? But no, that's one example but the lads, because we all wanted to play, were just relieved that we could. Then we were like, who's coming in? Because if someone comes in who's not more football orientated, we're going to have the same issue.
Problem, yeah.
And then Roy came in. A lot of lads didn't really know him, but Roy wanted us to play. And basically, you know, the whole mood changed.
I think that's the thing. I mean, even I would imagine with the journalists as well, every press conference now is not going to be dominated by, you've lost again. What's going to happen?
You're persisting with this system
exactly.
and analysing his every word. The one thing I would say is, and I was talking to Darren about this earlier, it's amazing. And as you get older and wiser and, you're able to look back, it's easier to analyse things. But when you're a footballer, the first impression of a manager is massive. And when I've been looking at his interviews, and I'm sure he's a nice fella and dedicated to his profession, he doesn't come across as somebody confident in what he's saying and steadfast. And because he has lots of success and bigger jobs all over the world, then I understand that. You can either be really confident and articulate in your words. So when Roy Hodgson took the room at Fulham or Houllier at Liverpool first time, there was this whoa, that is someone. And they're both ex-school teachers and very confident in the room. And everyone walked out going, that was impressive. And even the way they were in the press, it's like bang, bang, bang. There was no doubt. It was just, this is what's up. This is what we're doing. And then the other way of managers exuding that confidence is just in presence and physicality. So Mark Hughes wasn't a great talker because he'd been this wonderful footballer and he was a big lad and he carried himself with confidence. It's like, there's Mark Hughes.
Yeah.
Played for Barca and United twice. And it's like, and he would speak on when he spoke, it meant something, but he wasn't a great communicator. He had other staff who did that, like Mark Bowen, Eddie Nedweski. So managers have different ways of showing the confidence to the players and making them believe in what you're doing. And when I watched his interviews and the way he was talking, he was muddling his way through. And a bit like Amorim, when he's on the sidelines, he's pacing about and he's not looking at penalties and he's all over his tactic board. He's like,
I wanted to ask about the tactic board because everyone made a lot of that with Nancy as well. If you're a player and you're on the pitch, are you looking at that thinking, what's he doing? Or are you just not bothered? Because a lot was made of it.
I don't even think it's players. I think all of us as journalists, we looked at that and said straight away, listen, in politics, there are certain things that as a politician you don't do because if you get a snapshot of that becomes your defining image. You never get away from it. Ed Miliband biting into a sausage sandwich is a whole face contorted. No one ever forgot that image of him. There are certain things you just never do. You never get yourself photographed
with an umbrella.
Underneath
with an umbrella.
In an umbrella, yeah.
The only thing I'd say to that, so if Mourinho at Chelsea, when he's winning every game and breaking all his records and winning leagues, starts using a little tactics board, nobody says a word.
No.
So it's a heightened reflection of poor performance, basically.
Yes, absolutely.
And if it's like, you see different managers. Eddie Howe likes writing notes. Southgate used to do notes. There's a lot of managers who like notes, some who don't. When I was younger as a player, I used to think, why would you be writing notes? Because you're writing notes because either one, you're not capable of remembering what you want to say at half time, because if it's that important, it would stay in your mind. And two, while you're writing your notes, you're missing something in the game.
Absolutely.
And my first manager at Crewe, Dario Gradi, who was an amazing manager for me, he used to say, he said, what do I need to write notes for? I can see it all. And if it's important, I'll tell you at half time. And I'm like, yes. And I've got to tell you, I went on an FA, I think it was the B license. And what they do is they show you these videos, one part of the course. And you have to say, or write down and then discuss whether you think this is a good or a bad thing for a coach to do. And me being me, when they did the writing of the notes and it comes to the end to discuss, I went, that's a stupid thing to do, silly thing to do. And they were like, no, that's supposed to be one of the good things in your box. Like, that's something we encourage you to do as a young coach.
Making friends, Danny.
Yeah, so I was like, well, you missed the game, don't you? And I said, if I can't remember what I'm writing down, how important is it? I think that shows a weakness. Like, if I'd looked across and there was a coach writing stuff down, I think he's scrambling for what he's got to remember and what I've got to do. I wouldn't want to be that guy. So it's not he said...
But you still think that now?
Yeah, I know. I understand why they do it to a degree because there's so many points now, but I still don't agree with it.
And I think there's a big difference between writing notes and being on the tactics board, especially...
It is, because the notes are for yourself.
Yeah,
Tactics
boards when you're away to Grimsby, and hiding away from penalties at Grimsby.
Ridiculous.
And when you're a Manchester United manager, it's symbolic of his era.
Okay.
And by the way, I just finished the story.
Oh, sorry.
The guy said to me, "Why don't you just put it in the other column and let's move on?" And I went, "Good point." Tick.
As I say, make friends on these things. Right, you're listening in to Kickoff on TalkSport with Ladbrokes. We're going to talk about Chelsea next after Enzo Maresca left his role on New Year's Day, and it looks as though Liam Rosenior is coming in as the man to replace him. As I say, this is Kickoff with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over, gambleware.org. This is Kickoff on TalkSport. It's a pleasure to have you alongside us this Monday evening. It's Danny Murphy, Darren Lewis and me, Natalie Sawyer, taking you through until 10. There is a championship match taking place right now. Two teams not in the best of form. Both managers under pressure. Marti Cifuentes of Leicester. I've totally forgotten the West Brom manager. As I was saying that, which is ridiculous, isn't it? Ryan Mason.
Ryan Mason, of course it is.
Gosh, I had a moment of unsure.
Been on a bit of a bad run.
On a very bad run, and it's getting worse because
Not
they're losing.
you, West Brom.
Well, it's not the best of starts for 2026, is it? And I couldn't remember his name, but I blame that on the age. That's all I'll say. Jordan Ayew has given Leicester the lead in this one at the King Power Stadium. So that, if it stays like that, certainly might ease a bit of pressure, as I say, on Cifuentes, but not so on Ryan Mason. We'll keep you updated on that. It's just, 20 minutes old in that game. Of course, Enzo Maresca wasn't that long ago in charge of Leicester, then moved to Chelsea. But on New Year's Day was told that was it, no more. He had left his role as the head coach of Chelsea, and it now, the conversation turns to who is next, and it feels as though there is no one other than Liam Rosenior coming in. I don't know, Darren, if you know any more on that story.
Oh, yeah, he's going to get the job.
Definitely.
He's going to get the job. And, he is in the position that anybody in a big company who is offered a huge position would be. Why would you not take it? You take it. I mean,
absolutely.
He's done well at Strasbourg, and let's not forget the two clubs are owned by Blueco, so he's basically moving somewhere else within the company. And what Chelsea want to do is cultivate this model where not only do they have young players who they bring in, if some do well, make the grade, they stay. If some don't, they get sold off, they make a profit. Well, they want to do the same thing with managers as well. They allow managers to cut their teeth at other clubs. And then within the ownership model, those players come in to Chelsea, those managers, and then they get the manager's position. Will it work? I don't know. I'll put my cards on the table. I know his dad, Leroy. I know Liam himself. I would love it to work for them. They're terrific young. He's a terrific young coach. He's got a fantastic analytical head on his shoulders. He's a great young manager. So I'd love it to work for him. And when you think about the way that the players responded to Callum McFarlane against Manchester City, you can see that it doesn't appear to me to be a difficult dressing room. It doesn't appear to me, there is this perception that they're all going to be like, who's this guy and whatever else. I don't think that's the case. I think that they will want to work for him. What I do think, and we debated this before the show, is that the squad needs experience. And that's the big problem, because Chelsea won't bring that experience into the squad. And I don't think without that they can finish in the top four.
I know what you're saying about him coming in and that they're already, with Callum McFarlane, seem to be playing happily for him, no problem. But they know him. They don't know.
No, they don't know.
Well, they know him within the setup.
Yeah, but not very well.
Well, they know him at least to say hello to.
Yeah, but that's
not knowing him, is it?
Well, no, it is more than Liam Rosenior, who's a complete stranger.
No, but that's not knowing a manager or not.
Well, we don't know that fully, that they don't know him.
I listened to him do an interview on his interactions with the first team players, and he said he'd met a couple of them a few times at games.
Well, they're best mates then.
Yeah. I think it's more to do with the dynamic of the group at Chelsea is very young.
Yeah.
So you've got a group of young players who first and foremost want to become really good footballers and win things. So the person in charge, in a way, is in a better position, even though he doesn't have the experience, than he would be walking into a Chelsea dressing room of old, where you've got, when Rafa Benitez, I mean, he's an experienced manager. He walked in at Chelsea. The fans didn't want him to be manager of Liverpool. And as soon as a lot of the players didn't like him because he was a bit of a tyrant, Rafa, and I know that because I worked with him briefly. And people like John Terry, and they're like, we're not having this. We'll get him gone. Now, he's not going to have that. And he's not going to have that problem when he goes through the door. You're going to have 90% of them desperately willing to take on information, get in the team and show the world how good they are.
Absolutely.
Which is a great position to be in. So they'll be full of beans and full of energy. Now, communication is key with any player, young or old, in terms of rotation and when you're not playing, and making sure you're giving them good reasons and incentives to do more in training, or the reason why they're not playing this week and maybe the week after. Communication is a big thing, and he's very good at that. I've been around him as well, I've worked with him many times. He's a very energetic, calm, bright young lad. Ultimately, any manager, even somebody who's going in there who's done everything in the game, is going to have the same problems with inconsistency of young players. Now, how do you gain consistency? Well, I think you can gain more consistency even with young players if you don't swap your back four all the time, like Maresca did. And I don't think he'll do that because he was a defender by trade anyway, and he knows how important that is. But I think consistency will be very difficult to ascertain when you don't have the experience Darren's talking about, and those players around you who give you that bit of calmness and that bit of those words of wisdom in times when, thinking the Leeds away game, just after they've had that wonderful week and they just get ran all over because they're all over the place. And I know he made changes, but then they went on a bad run. Who's there? Reece is experienced in terms of football, but he's not. I wouldn't say he's the biggest vocal type of leader.
To your point, you've spoken many times on this show about Gary McAllister.
Yeah, Dietmar.
Liverpool, Dietmar Hamann at Liverpool. If you look at the squads now, Jordan Henderson at Brentford is a fantastic calming influence and everyone. Chelsea themselves had Thiago Silva, who can nurse other younger, inferior players along in games. They don't have that right now. They don't have it in their midfield. And I think that's a big reason why I would be concerned, not necessarily about Liam Rosenior's abilities, but in terms of the squad deficiency.
Where I disagree with Darren a little bit is I actually do think, because of the United position, because of Liverpool being so all over the place and up and down, I say up and down, they haven't lost for a while, but not playing great. I think with Chelsea's firepower, even though we know they're vulnerable and they do concede goals, I think with their firepower, you could argue with the options he's got, they could still make top 4. And if it is a 5, depending on them, I think he's got a great chance of getting in. The difficulty for him, of course, he's going to now be in a situation. They are obviously where he's just come from. They are playing European football and done well, but the league form suffered a bit recently. At Chelsea, he's going to have more players to choose from. But the difficult thing at a big club when you're getting that balance between Premier League in a weekend, big Champions League game in a week, because they all matter. And if you go and lose one, the pressure then grows on the next one. Whereas if you're a lesser club having a little run in Europe and everyone's just happy to be there, you don't have that same intensity.
Yes.
So the spotlight on him is something he's not going to... Although he had an half-decent career, he wasn't like playing at a big club even.
No.
So as a footballer, he's never had this... The intensity on him is going to go massive overnight. And I know he's bright and he's a calm lad, but it's hard to deal with.
It's a lot. And if you think about the Chelsea fans themselves, the other day they were at City, they're chanting for Roman Abramovich because under Abramovich they were a winning machine. And now the ownership model has changed, the business model has changed. They target profit. They've in a situation that is very, very different to the Chelsea we came to know and love, where they had warriors, as you say, like Terry, Lampard, Abramovich, Ballack, all those guys. And it's going to be difficult because that soundtrack of the fans' dissent from Chelsea, Strasbourg fans at the moment are not happy as well that they're losing. Well, they've lost, if you like, they believe, the soul of their club. And that you can't put that down to Lim or anything, but just in terms of they've now become a feeder club for Chelsea.
If he has a good start, because things could go well. They've got.
I do think that the goodwill in the squad could help
You've
him.
both mentioned you sort of know him, you've worked with him.
Yeah.
You think he can handle the pressure of a Chelsea? Yes. That's no problem.
His dad is a super...
He's a great fella.
He's a great fella and he's a great calming influence, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure he will be, and having good people around is key, but I just think until you're in it, you never quite know, because it's changed as well for even my situation. I mean, you're talking about social media now, of YouTube channels. You're talking about everyday radio show or a Sky Sports show, whatever, talking about Chelsea's last win or bad week where they haven't won, and he's just going to have to learn on the job a little bit.
Dan, would you agree PR is going to be, we've been talking about that so far,
Yeah.
the small things are going to be really important, and that's something that he's going to really have to be very careful with.
Do you think he's, bear in mind where he's coming from, he's more of a yes man than anything else?
I don't see the whole yes man thing. I mean, again, we started off the show by talking about the fact that
nearly everyone is to a degree.
Exactly.
Okay.
Football isn't what it used to be,
let's not
where
fall
a
out of
manager
this.
goes in like a Wenger or Fergie or whatever else. It's different. It's a more collaborative way of working now. So I don't like this yes man thing, because that presupposes that Liam doesn't have ideas of his own and he isn't astute. And I think we both agree he's a very astute, very, very intelligent.
And just to add to that, for any Chelsea fans listening, sorry to interrupt, but I just want to get it in. I don't think for 1 second he'll be obsessed with playing one way.
No.
He's not that daft.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I worded that and used the word daft loosely, like Amorim, that was daft. Really silly to continually play a certain way when you can't win football matches. I mean, he's not that guy. He's sharper than that.
Well, just to let you know, we understand that Rosenior is heading back to Strasbourg after positive talks with Chelsea, and we also believe he's going to be holding a press conference tomorrow morning where he's going to announce his departure from the French club. I know. What do I say? How do I say it? All this sort of stuff. But what we do also know is that caretaker Callum McFarlane will be in charge for the game against Fulham on Wednesday, which will be live on TalkSport 2 for you. On the way, we will talk about the weekend's football and start with the league leaders, Arsenal, who are now 6 points clear at the top of the table. Thank you very much for joining us here on Kickoff. It is Darren Lewis, Danny Murphy and Natalie Sawyer with you until 10. And don't forget, we have all 10 Premier League fixtures this week live across the TalkSport network. And it doesn't stop there, because we're also bringing you 11 live FA Cup commentaries this weekend across TalkSport, one of which might involve what we expect to be the new Chelsea boss, Rosenior, as they head to Charlton. But if boxing is more your bag, this Saturday, Germany hosts a massive heavyweight homecoming for Ajit Kabayel as he takes on Damien Nibar, with the winner lined up for a shot at the WBC heavyweight title, which you can watch this Saturday only on DAZN.
Boxing update on TalkSport with DAZN, the global home of boxing. Sign up now at dazn.com/boxing.
Now, West Brom have lost 9 successive away games, but they have pulled a goal back. They pulled a goal back to make it 1-1 at Leicester. Ahern Grant has got the equaliser, that after Ayew had given the hosts the lead in the 18th minute. But in the 34th minute, it's now 1-1 with 10 minutes to go now until half-time. Let's talk about the Premier League, shall we? And the fact that Arsenal are still top of the league and now 6 points clear after recent points being dropped by Aston Villa and, of course, Manchester City as well. They played Bournemouth most recently in a game that they had to come from behind to win as well, down on the south coast. And it was a game where first half Arsenal not really at their best, but they are finding a way, it feels, Danny, this season, in the second half in particular, to just notch it up a gear and go on and win like they did in this game.
Arsenal have got gears, haven't they? They've got gears they can go into. They're technically very good and very powerful. So they can win games ugly and they can win games playing really terrific football. I mean, the biggest thing about the game the other day was they're getting players fit. I looked at the bench and I was like, oh my God. So they had Saka on the bench, Eze on the bench, Lewis Skelly, Trossard, Jesus, Moreno, and I'm missing one other. But I was just looking at the bench thinking, all of those players sat on that bench would get in most of the team. And they've still got Calafiori missing from that squad. I think Ben White was the other one on the bench. Calafiori was missing. Havertz is missing. You know, it's just this powerful strength in depth. And now they've got the two at the back together, like Gabriel, Saliba. I know Bournemouth caused them some problems, actually. Deserve great credit because considering they've not won in a while, they didn't have a good go at Chelsea and a good go against Arsenal. But Arsenal just keep finding a way. And in terms of consistency, although they had the draw with Sunderland and Chelsea, and they obviously lost that away game at Villa, that you still feel that when they play badly, they're very unlikely to lose. They've lost 2 games all season, which is the least in the league. And they just seem to be finding their straps now. And I think that's probably as well, I've seen it before, my own experiences, when you get everyone fit and there's competition for places, the training goes up. Because everyone's like, oh, I better...
Yeah, step it up.
And then on match day, you're thinking, don't want to be the one who comes off. I mean, if you look at even Madueke's performance, first half, I mean, he's on it. He's like ready to go, like causing absolute chaos against the left back, who's been great actually. And then obviously Saka will play at it, and we know that. But he's making the manager think, well, actually, I can give Saka a rest. He doesn't have to play every game because I've got you. And all of a sudden now on the left, who's his first choice now? We're not sure. Eze scored actually against Tottenham less than a month ago. He hasn't had a minute in the last couple of games. This is the most powerful squad. You could argue City have got great strength in depth. They've got a lot of players to choose from. But right now, you'd be amazed if Arsenal threw it away this time. I would.
Even just, it's only 6 points, and they still have to play Manchester City, of course. But you still think they're good.
Played a lot of the big boys away.
Yeah.
They've played a lot of the big boys away. Only City, I think, is left. When I watch City, even in the Chelsea game, they do brilliant things, and you think, oh, they could blow Chelsea away. And then all of a sudden, they're a bit all over. There's gaps all over the place. I know they had the injuries to the centre halves, and they've been on a good run, City, so you can't discount them. But defensively, you feel that you can score against them when you watch them. They give up chances, and Arsenal generally don't. You know, they've got the best defence, haven't they? In the best defence, actually. And I can't remember the exact number. Saliba and Gabriel have played less games together this season than any other. And they've still got the best defence.
I do slightly disagree with you in so much as...
You're bringing Villa into this.
Well,
rightly so.
I remember when I mentioned Villa being title contenders last season. I just had a feeling about what Emery is doing at the club, and it turned out to be a season too soon. But the fact is that they're a side that thrive on being underdogs. When the pressure's on them, they're not as strong. I think they froze against Arsenal when they went to the Emirates. But I do think...
Just interject, they didn't. First half, Villa were a better team.
No, but in the second half,
I don't think they froze. I think they just got overpowered. You've got to remember, Villa have been playing the same players week in, week out. They make a few changes here and there, but they don't have the strength and depth.
But Dan, don't you think when you look at the 3 goals, well, the first goal,
mistake,
keepers all over the place.
Yeah.
Second goal, no one makes a tackle as the player strides through. Third goal, no one closes down as he's able to sweep it home. I mean, these are all basics that, you know...
Yeah, but the basics become they become more difficult to repeat when your fatigue is kicking in because you're constantly being attacked. And there's powerful machines coming at you, in one game. But I carry on with Villa because I do think they deserve a shout.
Well, I think that the interesting thing about Villa is that everybody dismisses them because there is this belief that Arsenal are going to steamroller it. And what we know about Arsenal is that they have had a recent history of being really impressive in the first half of the season.
Yeah, it's true.
And running out of steam in the second. Now, you could argue, as you both have been doing, that because they have a better squad, there is less likelihood of that happening. But football is also about psychology as well as what you can see on paper. And City have that psychology. They have that tactician. You think about how many times Sir Alex Ferguson would get Man United sides that had no right to win the league over the line, over superior opposition. Over superior opposition, because I think, you know, Chelsea were great. Chelsea were full of warriors at times when Man United were winning leagues, and that was because of the sheer force of will of Sir Alex Ferguson. I think with Pep, they do have that capability.
It's true. I think the thing with Arsenal, maybe I'm just overly confident on their behalf. I don't think they're going to get a better chance.
No, I agree.
I think that would be fair to say.
I do agree.
6 points ahead, everyone getting fit. Some of the other teams not quite to the level of their normal level. I mean, City's high bar is ridiculous. The one thing I suppose we forget as well with City is they do have the best striker in the world. I know he hasn't scored for 3 games?
3 games, yeah.
He is, honestly. He can turn games like that.
Whereas Arsenal's highest scorer has 5 goals, and they're sharing the goals. But if that starts to run out and Haaland rediscovers that form, which the law of averages says that he will do, and maybe Tijani Reinders weighs in and Phil Foden starts to weigh in and the other players start to take responsibility, then suddenly you've got a real race, and that could offset their vulnerability at the back, as you've been saying.
Do you have a preference to who wins it? If it's not Liverpool, obviously.
If it's not
Liverpool.
It's going to be Aston Villa. That's who he's back in.
Listen, I'm now hanging my hat a little bit. I don't think that Aston Villa are going to win it, of course, but I just love the fact that they're hanging in there. I think it would be, and also it'd be a real vindication of Unai Emery, who, you know, he's been derided, and I'm never not mystified by the fact that people deride a guy who speaks 6 languages, you know, for his lack of English, you know. But he is a guy who has taken a side that has no right to be in this conversation, and he's got them punching their way. And everyone just can't wait for the point at which they fall off so they can say, I told you so. But he keeps defying the odds.
Even if they do. Still done an amazing job.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And they've got a cracking final game of the season.
Brentford.
No. Manchester City away.
Oh.
Oh.
Who would you like to see winning that?
Who would I like to see win it? I mean, I do like the Aston Villa story because it's just
a great story, yeah.
It's exciting. Forgive us, Arsenal fans, because they'll be saying, hang on, we're a good story too. We haven't won it for a while. I realise.
Well, they are, and Arsenal, to be fair, and I got caught out on this speaking too quickly and flippantly about the title race a month ago when Chelsea were in it, but, you know, I was talking about in some ways it would be good if all these young players brought together, never been done before. Yeah. But actually, when you look at what Arsenal are trying to do with so many young English players as well, that's a good story in itself too. But I think the more you talk about it, we all love an underdog, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, listen, the reason why I kind of tipped Villa, Adrian Durham killed me when I did. If you remember, it was the first show of the season, and he kind of...
I did as well.
And you killed me as well. So every time they win, I check if there's a kickoff show so that I can go and kind of sit back and get a little cigar on. But I just think that in a game that's awash with money, and listen, Villa spent a fair...
Even the clock's right twice a day.
Be a good loser now. I think it's just nice to see the underdog continue to punch their way, and I think everybody does now. I think an incredible amount of Unai Emery, and he keeps proving that he is pound for pound one of the best managers in Europe, particularly with underrated teams. Villarreal, he did a great job with. Sevilla won the Europa League or the old UEFA Cup a number of times. Yes, he got the PSG job. Yes, people will say he didn't do so well at Arsenal, but he's gone to Villa and he's done superbly well.
Would that sting though? If he was to win the title and in the process obviously mean that Arsenal miss out?
I think if Arsenal miss out now, it's going to sting massively no matter what. Yeah. And it's going to cause this debate.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Look, there's lots more for us to talk about. Aston Villa obviously beat Nottingham Forest at the weekend 3-1. We'll talk more about that. We'll talk plenty about the relegation picture as well as Wolves. Finally won their first game of the season. That's to come in the next hour and 15 minutes of kickoff here on TalkSport. This is Kickoff on TalkSport, and it is Darren Lewis, Danny Murphy and Natalie Sawyer with you until 10. Half-time in the Championship game between Leicester and West Brom. It's 1-1 at the break, and less than a week to go. TalkSport is celebrating 2026 by giving you the chance to win £26,000. All you have to do is head to talksport.com/win to find out how to enter. We are continuing to look back now at what has happened over this latest Premier League weekend. And I know we've already spoke a fair bit about Aston Villa, but we should really talk about that performance against Nottingham Forest and maybe even bring in the Forest side of things too. And one player we should probably talk about is Ollie Watkins, who is now finding form once again. Scored the opener for Aston Villa in this game at Villa Park. He's now, scored 6 in his last 8. As things stand then, is he the understudy to Harry Kane at the World Cup?
For me, he is.
Mm-hmm.
I've still got a feeling that Delap could have a strong second half to the season.
What makes you think that?
Just seeing the last couple of weeks, and even when he come on in the game at City, he's got this physical presence, powerful about. He's got attributes that you'd want coming off the bench. I mean, depending on the size of the squad as well. I don't know if that's been confirmed. It might take 3, but for me, Watkins, yes, because he gives you. He's different to Kane, isn't he? Because he wants to run behind. His work ethic's unbelievable in terms of making those runs to stretch teams and give those brilliant number 10s we've got space to get on the ball. And he seems like such a team player. I never see him angry or not angry is the wrong word. I never see him, his body language bad or hear him saying things negatively about other people or the club or his own He doesn't seem to have this ego that a lot of top forwards, and he is a top forwards, have. Now, some might argue he should, but I think when you're looking at a squad for England and a player who understands the role he's got in that squad, a bit like being ready to come on and get the winner in the semi-final.
Yeah.
That mentality and the fact he's already been involved in tournaments probably puts him ahead of Welbeck, ahead of Delap at the moment.
Would you have considered Dominic Calvert-Lewin with the form that he'd been in?
It's a great shout, yeah. That's who I was thinking of. I mean, his level of performance in the last 2 months has been phenomenal. The only difference you could argue, I suppose, but main difference is Calvert-Lewin got that pace to running behind that Watkins has got. Do you want that as an option? What Calvert-Lewin's got is great hold-up play, and if the crosses are coming in, there's not many better in the air. There's an argument to take 3 strikers.
Yeah, I'd go along with that.
If the squad is 26.
I think it will be.
I don't know if they've confirmed it.
I'm not sure.
You should know that.
What I do think is that I look at that Watkins goal, the one he scored in the shadow of half time at the weekend. That's a Harry Kane goal of nothing. That's a real confidence strike from the edge of the box, great technique, and to me that kind of underlines that he's not just about getting in behind or hold up play. He's got a real variety to his skill set, and I would take him for all the reasons you've said: the experience of being in a major tournament, the level-headedness.
He's likeable, isn't he?
He's very, very likeable. I would take him. The player I was thinking of alongside the two of them was Welbeck. I think Welbeck can hold the ball up very well. He can get in behind. He's very good in the air. He might have dropped off in terms of goals at the moment, but you do know what you get. And I think the reason why he possibly might have the edge over Calvert-Lewin is injury records, because Calvert-Lewin is susceptible to injury. Now, Welbeck has been as well, let's not kid ourselves, but I think that Brighton have done very well to manage him, and he's in good shape. He would be the third one for me, but Watkins I definitely think would be.
I think they've all got a fair, good argument if they continue to stay fit.
Yeah.
And play second half of the season, because if you get an injury, you're out for 6-8 weeks and you can't recapture your form, you're out of the equation, aren't you? You can't take someone there who's not playing well.
No.
So Ollie Watkins obviously in form. In general, Nottingham Forest are going through a little, well, I say little, it's a bad run of form. They've lost their last 4 in the league.
Didn't they win 7 of their first 12 under Dyche when he took over, if you put in the European games as well?
Bear with. did.
And they've just lost their way quite considerably, which is a surprise because that defence, and I thought he had a great chance of doing particularly well because the quality in that defence, they've got some really good players. The goalkeeper's very good as well. The protection for the back four is there as well. But plus they've got that capability of scoring goals through Morgan Gibbs-White, who can burst forward from it. But it's just they've lost their way. They've lost their confidence. They don't look to have that organisation that they had.
They did win 7 of 12.
Yeah.
It's been a mixed bag because they're trying to do something different. They had Ange Postecoglou and then Dyche's come in and completely different.
Well, how hard is that? Because if they start with Nuno, first of all, very different styles. Then Ange comes in.
It's not that difficult to go away to become more solid. It's more difficult to go from being solid to then on the front foot. That's a more difficult transition. But the other problem he's had is that they're playing, although their squad's good, you can tell that he's made changes in some games, but a lot of the time a lot of the players play a lot of the games. So there are some that change, but a lot of his best players play most of the games. And there's certain games I've watched them where they look tired. So I was at the Fulham game and they were poor. Now, he said they didn't deserve to lose. They did. They were poor. There was no zip. There was no intensity. And then I saw them play Man City at home, which was a bit easier. And they were at it, fighting for every ball. The passing was quicker. Everything was better. Now, maybe there was more energy, maybe a bit more rest, maybe the fans being on. But he's got this contrast in performances. You know, one time you watch Forest, you think, oh, you know, decent performance, look like a side moving forward and coming together. And then next week, I'm not sure that the minutes are getting spread about enough because I think he's got good enough players to freshen up a bit more. You know, when you think of the lad Jesus has played a lot of the games up front, he looks a bit tired. I know Chris Wood's missing, which is a blow, but he had 2 strikers on the bench. James McAtee's a terrific player. He's not getting any minutes. Well, he is getting minutes, getting some minutes in some European games, but not enough to be sharp. Gibbs-White plays nearly all the games. Elliot Anderson plays nearly all the games. It's hard when you've not done it before to have. I mean, Dyche just come into a club where he's trying to change things mid-season as well, so it's hard for him. So I think you're going to get these up and down performances, but when they've been poor, they've been bad. You know, they've had some really bad performances. And he'll be disappointed with that because one thing he prides himself on is being hard to beat and not conceding. And I think they'll be fine, by the way. I don't think there's any problem there. But this management of European and Premier League games, it's been a problem.
Does ramp up tomorrow's game, doesn't it? West Ham.
Where's it at? Forest?
At West Ham. 4 points the difference between the two.
It could be a bloodbath if a sporting bloodbath.
Yeah.
If West Ham were to lose that game. Given that it's at the London Stadium, given that the squad is so poor, given that they were abject at the weekend, losing to Wolves, the worst side in the Premier League. The squad at West Ham is shocking. It's been shocking for a long time. They've been bad at set pieces. They've been heavily reliant on Jared Bowen for quality. The talk now is that Callum Wilson is interested in moving away now from the club. Who can blame him? It's just poor. They've tried for a couple of defenders already ahead of the window to improve things.
They've signed 2 strikers, haven't
they? Yeah.
Yeah, but none of Tati Castellano from Argentina and a second one, I think Alisson from Gil Vicente as well. Alisson does have a half-decent record. I think he scored 10 goals in the Portuguese league. But Tati Castellano doesn't appear to have a big risk and looks like a lot of money. And I think that's the big problem with West Ham. They've been speculating on a lot of players that just have not delivered.
I tell you what, though. You know what football's like. If West Ham could sneak a win, don't even have to play well. You just sneak a win. And then there's a point in it.
Yeah.
It changes everything, because then Forest go into the next game looking right behind and West Ham thinking we're nearly there.
Yeah.
Just changes swift. It's a massive game, that.
Well, just to quickly clarify what would happen after that, game tomorrow night, Forest would have Arsenal at the City Ground.
And West Ham?
Bear with. I'm there.
If you're driving, this is Nat. Nat is looking at her little...
I think whoever West Ham plays an easier game than ours.
They're away to Tottenham. Indeed, they're away to
That's a good game.
There you go. Right. Well, listen, we'll talk more about that Wolves victory. They're first in the Premier League. That came at the weekend over West Ham. We'll reflect on that and see whether or not that might spur them on to a miraculous great escape. That's next.
From the Toffees to the Tractor Boys, the Eagles to the Seagulls, Gunners, Bees, Hammers and Magpies, Premier League teams have got a load of crazy nicknames. Ever wondered where they came from? Let's start with Everton. They're dubbed the Toffees, but why? Well, because when the club was formed, just down the road there were two local toffee shops. Ye ancient Everton Toffee House and Mother Noblet's Toffee Shop were big fan favourites. Next, they say if you can't beat 'em, join 'em, and that's exactly what Ipswich Town did when it came to their nickname. The term Tractor Boys used to be chanted by their opponents as a way of putting the team down for their farming background. But during one game back in the late 90s, Ipswich were 1-0 up and they decided to flip the script. 1-0 to the Tractor Boys, they sang, and a new nickname was born. Let's head to Leicester, famous for more than just a red, well, orangey cheese and Jamie Vardy. Leicestershire's also the birthplace of fox hunting, hence the Foxes. Next up, turns out apples are not the only fruit that don't fall far from the tree. Bournemouth's nickname, the Cherries, comes from the fact the club's stadium was originally built right next to a bunch of cherry orchards. This next story actually involves two club nicknames. It started with Crystal Palace. They were having an absolute nightmare run back in the early 70s. They'd been relegated after a terrible spell and manager Malcolm Allison decided enough was enough. He wanted a new nickname, something strong, fast and destined for success. Something exactly like an eagle. But there's more to this one. Brighton were in search of a nickname too, and Palace finally gave them what they needed. In a heated match between the two back in 1976, Palace fans began chanting, "Eagles, Eagles," and some clever Brighton fans came up with the perfect reply, "Seagulls, Seagulls." Not all club nicknames have a crazy story though. Take the Gunners. That just comes from the fact a group of munitions workers in the Royal Arsenal factory in Woolwich set up the club in 1886. On the flip side, some nicknames seem simple, but there's a bit more to them, like West Ham. The Hammers is actually nothing to do with the ham part of the name. It comes from the fact the club used to be called Thames Ironworks FC and was made up of workmen and shipbuilders. So next time the away end's chanting their crazy nickname, you'll
Good evening. You're tuning into TalkSport and kick-off this Monday night. I'm Natalie Sawyer. And with me here in the studio, it's Darren Lewis and Danny Murphy. As we continue to look back on an eventful Premier League weekend once more, if I can get my words out. Don't you laugh, Darren. It happens to the best of us.
It does indeed.
At least I didn't turn up to a show last week when there wasn't one.
Oh, low blow.
The cat comes out every now and then. Right, let's talk about Wolves, shall we? I know we've already talked about West Ham and what a terrible performance it was from them, but alternatively, what a great performance by Wolves, which in a weird way felt like it might have been coming.
Yeah.
Because under Rob Edwards, we have certainly seen signs of improvements, but I'm not sure people would have expected that result to end up quite as emphatic as it turned out to be for Wolves.
Maybe not quite as emphatic, but there had been signs.
Thanks for joining us.
Sorry, I was
Danny, you're right, mate.
Jamie O'Hara about Chelsea and Tottenham's predicament and all this thing.
Midway through the show. Could you not tell him you're a bit busy at the moment?
Well, I knew you were capable.
Oh, so he knows all the right thing.
Oh, you did.
No, we were talking about Wolves and the fact that there had been signs in their performances. I remember you asking us before about Wolves, and I'd been saying, particularly after the game against Arsenal, for example, the game against Manchester United, the appetite is there. The will to fight and compete is there. It's just that they're suffering from a lack of quality because the quality has been sold off and it's not been adequately replaced, and that's the reason they're in the position they are. But if you look at the performance, it wasn't a surprise to me. What was a surprise was how poor West Ham were and how unwilling to compete they were. But Wolves, actually, I've seen this coming.
Yeah, they put a few good. I mean, their performance at Anfield was good. Second half, they had a right good go. United game. You need a bit of luck as well. In when you're down there, it feels like everything goes against you. And they got that penalty decision against West Ham, which, God, that was soft. But you take it, don't you?
Totally agree.
You take it. And they've had bad ones against them, actually. They've had some unlucky ones against them. Yes. So he'll feel like they deserve that. And I think now, the thing for them, because they can't stay up, the thing for them is building some confidence, momentum, finish the season with a bit of a spring in your step, take the inevitable and then go, we're ready to go again. And some of the players who they've brought in have grown in terms of experience, because they've got a lot of young players, or inexperienced players in the Premier League, because most of their signings never played Premier League. They did spend some money to be fair to them. So if those players then gain some confidence and some experience by playing Premier League football, drop down a level and think, oh, it's a bit easier. Because it will be. Will be if they keep them together. And they've got to then add a bit of championship experience, one or two come in. He's been down there before, the manager, he knows what it's about. I'd fancy them strongly to come back up.
And also what they've got to do is hold their nerve. I mean, Mane looks a really good player for them, and he's had a few good performances. But, you know, don't be crazy if somebody comes in with a big offer and just sell him off, you know, because he could be the key to exactly what Danny says, them coming back from the Championship if they were to put a run of form together. Listen, the Championship is a tough old league. You're looking at Coventry, for example, steamrolling at 1 minute, losing to Birmingham at the weekend. The lead has been reduced all the time because it's a Grand National of a season for them. So there's no guarantee that if they were to go back, even if they were to keep their best players and go back up, but as Danny says, they've got the best chance of doing
your first season is your best chance. No?
Yeah.
But you're with agreement that they are down, regardless of the fight that we're seeing, that there's still 18 games to go. Yeah? No? I'm just trying to put it out there. No?
No.
Not a chance.
Not a chance.
Oh, well, that's not nice, is it? Okay, but fair enough. As we say, we have seen...
It's like Dumber and Dumber, isn't it? So there is a chance. Quite appropriate, really.
It's very true. But look, as we said, there was great improvement we've seen under Rob Edwards and Wolves. We touched on West Ham already, but they are without a win now in 9, remain 4 points from safety. It's got a huge game with Forest to come. Do you think it's possible that Nuno could lose his job?
I don't think it would be advisable because 3 managers in a season never ends well for any club. It just doesn't. And I think the problem at West Ham is a poor squad. It's not the manager. The manager's body of work, if you look at... Take out Spurs where he was there for 5 minutes, 17 games.
No, but you still expect some improvement, don't you?
No, you would expect some improvement, but tell me where the quality is in that. Take out Jared Bowen and tell me where the quality is in that West Ham side. Look at the 2 centre-halves who have a mistake in them in every game. Look at the midfield where there is a lack of creativity.
Experience.
And even when he arrived, there was no mobility in that midfield.
He's changed that because Potts and... Magassa, they're both athletic.
But Magassa is the one who gave away the ball for the first goal.
And the lad they brought in from Southampton, he's got legs. But their performances have been so poor at times. It's like, what are they actually working on? Are they trying to be defensive, which I think they are? Or are they trying to have a go? I mean, we haven't seen the best we know how good Bowen is. Paqueta's hot and cold.
Yeah.
The fans have become a little bit irate with him if what I've listened to is right, people phoning in. Somerville's better than he's showing.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with West Ham that gives them a little glimmer of hope is they do have players who can make and score goals, and Bowen being the main one.
But Dan, what they need is a defensive base. They've got to, in this window.
Yeah, they're conceding.
They have got to go out and get some leadership in that centre half position.
But with the scenario that they find themselves in, you've seen it. He sometimes is like at Wolves, he's opted to start with Wilson up front, but we've seen Bowen be that false number 9 as well. Do you think he's not knowing his best 11, or he's just having to chop and change because he's...
Yeah, he's trying to find the balance.
Yes, find the right...
Yeah.
I would personally play Bowen in his best position because he's your best player and he's most comfortable doing that, and just give him the freedom to not defend and balance the team around. And
I agree with that.
How can we get him in the best areas possible? I don't want him tracking left backs and playing right back. I want him, like Mo Salah at his best, if you like. We're going to build the team to support you to be free. For when we get the ball, we can get you the ball because you're the one who makes the magic happen. Now, he can't do it on his own. He needs some help. Other players chipping in and, making chances and getting him the ball. But you're right, they've got to do some business. They've got to try and do some business because you can't see that squad. They might nick the odd result here and there, but you'd have Forest squad ahead of West Ham's all
100%. I look at take out Somerville, Bowen, Wilson. I can't see too many players in that squad that I would keep.
I'd continually play those 3.
And this is the point. If you can shoot your way out of trouble, you've got a chance. If you can defend and keep clean sheets, you've got a chance. West Ham at the moment actually can't do either.
But you've just obviously told us earlier on that looks like Callum Wilson might be leaving. It's only a very short spell there. Yet you're saying he's a sir. He should be. I know
no. If he were to stay, would that?
Yes. Well, no, of course. But my point more is, and maybe this is more from him that he wants to leave.
Well, he must because they brought 2 in.
Yeah, but would you not be thinking I actually need the experience because we don't know how these 2 are going to get on?
Well, I saw him in the Bournemouth game, and he was terrific, and he showed all the qualities he's got, and he's fit. So the last thing I'd be wanting to do is get him out the door.
Agree.
Especially as Fulkrug's gone as well.
Yeah.
I mean, should have got him fit and in the team. You've got players there. Even if you play, you could have ended up with Wilson and Fulkrug together as a 2.
The only thing about
play long ball, play pragmatic.
The only thing is that Fulkrug.
I know he was injured a lot.
Yeah, he was injured a lot, and B, if he were English, I don't think he would have that kind of cachet, if you like. He was a decent player, but he wasn't all that. And it was a bad move. Yeah, he spoke a very good game, but I think it was a bad move all round for him, and he'll go to AC Milan, a weaker league, and he'll do okay. But I just think, for me, West Ham have got, because you can nick, as you would probably say, you can nick games if you've got a decent defensive base, but West Ham do not have that right now. They don't have that protection for the back four. They don't have any creativity. They don't have enough supply from the wide areas. They look a shambles. And yeah, okay, if people want to say that's as much on Nuno as it is on the players, fair enough.
No, he inherited the squad.
He inherited that squad.
Yeah, that can't be on
a squad that you could lay at his door. He arrived, the end of September, 27th of September, and he's been in charge for 15 games. Give him a chance by going into the window, doing some business,
I agree.
bringing in some players.
I agree.
Would that be the same for Sean Dyche? Because I have seen some Forest fans already saying he's got to go.
Really?
Yeah. Listen, that's on social media. I'm not saying it's the best.
No,
The only thing
scale.
I'd say, right, Dan, if there's a manager that would pull the trigger again,
Yeah.
it's
An owner.
An owner. It's Evangelos Marinakis. Because, and he's got to save the club.
But likewise, he's not had a window. He's not had any chance.
No,
to do
I agree.
anything.
I
So,
agree. The only thing that Marinakis might argue is this squad is better than the West Ham squad.
It is better.
Yeah.
And it would be hard to argue with that.
Well, West Ham against Nottingham Forest is live tomorrow night here on TalkSport. I'm making that trip to the London Stadium.
Be a great game.
I know.
For fun.
Might have to have some sort of tin hat on.
For fun.
No.
No, for work.
Okay, you love football, don't you?
Well, I do, but I don't know if I'd go all the way to West Ham on a Tuesday night for
It's
fun.
not that far.
From West London to East London, it's a bit of a trek. Unless-
What do you think
I
the
don't-
Plymouth fans do? Wait at
Well, I know.
Carlisle.
I feel like a guest at a dinner party and the
Let me just
hosts are
say-
arguing.
No. Hang on. I won't bring up what I was going to bring up, but what did you want to do on Thursday night? No, I won't talk about it.
I don't like going to football matches. I don't like going. I don't like going to football matches.
Why, though?
Because I just get mithered.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean? It's the abuse and the silly comments. That's why.
Even now. I
Yeah.
suppose that's silly to say that. Okay.
That's why.
All right.
Safety.
Okay. Oh my goodness! That is such an accusation that is not true. Right.
Joking.
Do you know what we'll do? We'll just let's go to a break because we're going down the wrong avenue here and we don't want to be going any further with it. We're going to bring you our Ladisfaction magic moments of the weekend next. This is Kickoff on TalkSport. Thank you very much for tuning in this Monday night. You're tuning in to Danny Murphy, Darren Lewis and me, Natalie Sawyer. In the One Championship game of the evening, it's still 1-1. They're into the hour mark now between Leicester and West Brom. West Brom coming back from behind to draw 1-1 in this game that you can tune into for full live commentary on TalkSport 2. And if you haven't got TalkSport 2 via the app, well, then download the app. TalkSport app, then you can just swipe between the stations to listen to exactly what you want to hear. But 1-1 it is into the 61st minute now. Right, it's time for us to look at our magic moments of the weekend, all thanks to Ladisfaction from Ladbrokes.
Magic moments of the weekend on TalkSport with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
I'm sure there's many moments we could have picked from the weekend. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first because the Fulham game looked really as though it was heading the way of Liverpool before Harrison Reed came off the bench, and he'd been on a couple of seconds. I think it was only a second touch, and that strike into the postage stamp was absolutely outstanding. Had me, my wife, my daughter, all off our seats because it was just phenomenal from Harrison Reed. Great moment for him, great moment for Fulham, and a great point in the end.
Is that, do you think, at this moment in time, goal of the season?
No.
No. What people are saying is a goal of the season.
Do you know what? I don't know if you agree with this. I don't like long-range strikes as goals of the season.
The goal of the season is the Leeds one at Sunderland. Every player touched the ball. It was unbelievable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that I could go with as a goal of the season.
Okay.
Technique, craft, creativity.
And even unusual goals as well, like mad overhead kicks and acrobatics and all that. Just unusual ones. But it's a brilliant strike. I mean, I can say this from experience because I've hit a couple like that. You sometimes just know when it leaves your foot.
I was going to ask that.
And it looks like you've really meant to put it in the top corner, and you kind of have. But when you hit a ball like that, all you're trying to do is flush it, so you don't hit the side of the ball. You get flush right behind it to get it to go, like really, because you're a long way out, and you've got to get the timing bang on. Like when you play golf, when they say flushed it, you've got to catch it just right. And when he hit it, he'll have known. You just know. And it's when you've just come on a sub as well, sometimes you've got no fear of thinking, there's a minute left or whatever. You just think, I'm going to shoot. And when it went in, he must have, honestly, the feeling.
But that's your point, right? I've watched you play. Lots of people listening will have watched you play and watching, and they've seen you hit a few from distance. But, I think of you, yes and no. I mean, Declan Rice can hit one, right? Yeah. But Declan Rice, you see, there's thought, there's technique, it's not hit and hope, No. And I think sometimes, if you're talking about a goal of the season, it can't be a hit and hope.
No, it can't.
35 yards with the clock.
I agree. Yeah. A volley's more difficult.
Yeah.
All right, well, that ends that one. What's your moment then, Danny?
Yeah, ended it, didn't it?
It's making us sound like the Grinches.
I'm going to give Sunderland some more love.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The Brian Brobby equaliser was a hell of a good goal. Talk about link-up, flick round the corner, getting it back, and then smashing it in with his weak foot. There was no finesse about it. It was like player just full of confidence, just full of himself. Like, that was a proper striker's goal. I saw Benty when I was talking to him about it, and he was like, Benty's in the 100 club. He knows a good goal. Not sure he ever got one like that with his left foot. But it also epitomised Sunderland's season in a way, in that it's not just resilience and endeavour. They're a bit more than that. They've got quality.
Absolutely.
And this is a team who've lost 5-6 to AFCON players, playing God knows, like everyone else, every few days against high-quality opposition and putting in performance after performance after performance. Away from home against the Tottenham side, desperate for a result. Okay, you could argue low on confidence, but second half, Sunderland were better. And the goal just encapsulated their season in a moment, really. Late in the game, fighting for the cause. It's not a long throw-in or a set piece. It's quality goal. And Brian Brobby, by the way, easy for me to say, Brian Brobby looks a snip at 20 million. Did you see him play against City as well when he ragged Diaz a couple of times?
Yep.
I mean, this guy is strong, he's quick. I know he's got 3 goals already, and I don't think he started that many.
It's not the first time he scored late either, is it? Did he score late against Bournemouth?
He set up the winner at Chelsea, didn't I? That his hold-up play.
Yes.
I don't know if he scored it, but I've to double-check that. I should know. I think he set it up.
He's very much an impact player for Sunderland. And, yeah, I do think he looks a good value.
20 million euro.
You know, they've done some great business.
They have.
The young Dreyfus, the owner at Sunderland,
Yes.
He came with a plan. He decided that to stay in the league, we are going to have to speculate. Generally, he likes younger players. But what he did was he said, we've got to bring in some older players as well, because there are going to be moments where we need that character, we need that grit and determination. And that's what we're seeing in games like the one at the weekend. When you don't have the quality, when you do have players that are not there, what we need is character. And that's what you're able to conjure up.
Arsenal.
He stole it from me. He scored the equaliser, but he also scored the winner against Bournemouth, which was in the 69th minute, but that made it 3-2.
That goal against Arsenal was good as
But
well.
yeah, the equaliser.
But he set up that. He's the one that held it up in Chelsea when I can't think who got the goal when they won late on.
I wonder if he can really kick on in a Sunderland shirt, whether one or two clubs might be taking a look at him, because he's a good player.
He is. Well, he went. They got him from Ajax, but he made a big move from Ajax, and then they bought him back.
He went to Leipzig.
Leipzig, that's right. Well done.
Thank you. I'm not going to wax too lyrical about this because we're going to talk about...
Go on.
No, because we're going to talk about the game.
Should.
Igor Thiago's hat-trick. I mean...
Chada 1 week, Thiago the next.
This is it. And I don't think I've ever seen a happier footballer who's out there. He's hugging... I mean, listen, you might not agree. I don't think Beto wanted to be hugged by him.
What's that all about?
I just think he's a happy man. He was hugging Tarkowski. They had a little spat at times too, but it's just a very happy man. He's always smiling, and yeah, for him to get that hat-trick and now up to 14 goals. And he's not far off the Brazilian record of scorers in the Premier League.
Only Erling Haaland scored more goals in the Premier League so far this season.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So that was mine, and I was there. So it was nice to see it.
Has he got a song yet?
He does.
Can you sing it for us?
No. Think about gold and Spandau Ballet. That's what we sing.
Okay, go on, sing it.
No. I can't do it without my backing track.
If you want Natalie to sing...
Do not. You don't want to do that because you'll definitely turn off your radio. But those are our magic moments of the weekend that brought us Ladisfaction, all thanks to Ladbrokes. It's 18 November.
Oh, is it like that?
Yes.
Always believe.
He will score.
Magic moments of the weekend on TalkSport with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
Yes, it didn't take too long to work out really the song for that one. Anyway, we'll talk about Brentford running riot at Hill Dickinson next.
on that.
True though. It's lovely when we sing this one, I must say. Go! There you go. Yes, we're talking about Igor. Talking about Igor Thiago's hat-trick at the weekend as Brentford won 4-2 at Everton. This is Kickoff, by the way, and it is Danny Murphy, Darren Lewis and me, Natalie Sawyer, with you. And yeah, a hat-trick that means he is now up to 14 Premier League goals in what effectively is his first proper full season. Bear in mind that he picked up an ACL injury last summer, or the summer before, really, which ruled him out for much of the season. And then he picked up another injury mid-season, which then meant he didn't really recover until late on.
You've been really blessed in terms of strikers, because lots of people believed when Ivan Toney left, there were lots of people saying, where will the goals come from? And then last season, Wissa basically filled his boots. And everyone said, oh my goodness, you can't sell Wissa. If you sell Wissa, you can't sell Mbuemo. What's going to happen if we sell them?
Well, of course, the plan was never to sell Wissa. We knew that Brian would be leaving, but I think they were hoping to keep hold of Wissa, and we all know what happened.
But the point...
Brian and Burmo, sorry.
Brian,
you know him?
That's name terms.
No, I don't know him, to be fair. I don't know Thiago, but we sing his name, so that's all right.
Is that his first name? Who knows?
No, it's not. To be fair, it's not.
But the point is that, each time you sell, you don't end up in the subsequent months having to look back in anger, thinking, "Oh my gosh, it's
even
more...
even Ouattara, who they brought in, he's been great, and he's injured at the minute.
He's at AFCON.
Of course he is, Of course he is, because he's been terrific.
Yeah.
It's not by chance, though.
No.
I mean, the recruitment is just second to none. They keep getting these gems in, and actually, for Thiago to produce the levels he has is great credit to him, because coming back from a major knee injury is difficult anyway to find, never played in this league before. And credit to Keith Andrews, because Brentford don't care that it may, on certain games, look a certain way. They find your weakness.
Yes.
And if it means they're going over the top early, or they're using the pace of Sharda or Thiago's runs, they don't care.
He's a pragmatist, isn't he?
Well, that's just called football intelligence, isn't it? Use the strengths you've got. Henderson, clever. He looks up Jordan. Sometimes he plays them blind and he just puts them in there because he knows he's got runners. And I think Keith Andrews has surpassed, I'm assuming, all Brentford fans' expectation.
Absolutely.
There was a little bit of contention around the appointment.
So Natalie asked us about it at the start of the season, and we were saying
you said you didn't want
from us. It's from...
I never said I didn't want him. Never said that. But, even latterly there were some Brentford fans that were still not having him.
But they are now.
I'm sure they are now, and up to 7th, it looks quite rosy. But
do you know, on Sunday there was a set of circumstances, if I'm not mistaken, where they could have gone 4th. Or I don't know if that was on Sunday, or if it's in the next round of games, where if teams above them were to not...
If things were to go away, and I'm not trying to jinx it, we'd go on to 33 points. And if Chelsea and Manchester United don't get anything this midweek, then...
Where would that leave you?
We'd move up to 5th.
Fifth. There you go.
I'm not going to jinx it, because the point I was going to say as well is that, yes, we're in 7th, but one defeat and wins for others, it plummets you right back down again.
But why would you not think to yourself, another
because
win
I don't want to jinx it.
She's a realist.
And also it's Sunderland next at G-Tech, but that's not going to be easy on Wednesday. I shall be there. But we would be a point behind Liverpool if we were to win that game.
But can you see what I mean about how I started off by saying about how bizarre this league is? And I don't mean that to be negative to Brentford.
No, and that's what I'm saying to you, that it's so close that a defeat and a win for others changes the complexion completely. But that being said, it was my first visit to Hill Dickinson, and what a stadium it is, I have to say. It is stunning. I was with my dad and we're walking around it, and I was just marvelling at how I thought it was beautiful. And I know it sounds weird to maybe talk about a football stadium like that, but I really did.
No, they've got it right.
I loved Goodison, don't get me wrong. I loved Goodison for its charm and old sort of style that it was. But I thought Hill Dickinson's lovely. Really nice.
I love new stadia. I know a lot of people get sort of caught in the nostalgia of the old stadiums, and they feel new stadiums are taking football away from where it was. And we live in a modern world. We are moving away from where we were. You cannot have the dilapidated stadiums that, yes, we came to know and love them, but, it's a delusion to believe that they're fit for purpose anymore. And so it's great that Everton have managed to move into the 21st century and have a stadium that is up alongside the big boys.
Do you think, though, that might be because I think they haven't... I'm trying to remember what the stat was, but they started off well this season at home. They've stuttered of late. Is there anything to be said about they haven't yet made it their home and new teams, teams going there, kind of see it as a level playing field? Could that be why they're stuttering?
I mean, yeah, it takes a little while for everything to become familiar and for it to feel like a fortress. I think that's fair. I think Everton, to be honest, at the weekend, I mean, they had a terrific result at Forest, didn't they? And they've been a bit like that, Everton, where they have a great result one week and then let themselves down. I think Newcastle went there and scored 3 or 4 like Brentford did, and beat them convincingly. So they've had these like different performances. But when you're without Dewsbury Hall, who was arguably their best player at the start of the season, Branthwaite's been missing, Ndiaye's away, AFCON. They don't really have strength in depth. They've got enough to not be in a relegation zone. Of course they have. But there was a little spell where Evertonians were talking about maybe Europe, and I think they're a bit off that. Brentford made them look poor, and that's more credit to Brentford than Everton being bad, because Everton had to chase the game, didn't they?
Well, Everton started brilliantly for the first sort of 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I thought, God, trying to win for it now, because it was all Everton. And in fact, our first goal was our first shot on target.
Well, Kelleher's save. What's a save?
Fantastic.
That was a 0-0, wasn't it? Down to his left.
There was a number of great saves, but
yes,
one in
particular.
That was, yes. But even Yves Thiago headed one off the line early on as well, which goes to show that he is, all over the pitch, can be a handful in the right way. But it kind of quickly fell apart for Everton once Brentford took the lead in that game. And it was quite comfortable, even though Everton scored 2. And I suppose the positives for that will be the fact that Beto and Barry both scored. And in the end, David Moyes opted to play 2 up front with Everton, which, cliche, it doesn't really happen anymore in football, does it? But it was quite nice to see that. And in that sense, they did cause a bit of havoc. And that's been their biggest problem, goal scoring, because they've only scored 22 goals.
Listen, that game underlined the fact that David Moyes needs to do some business in the window, and they've got to bring him in some bodies. Yeah. They've got to, I mean, allowing for the players that you said are not available. They don't have enough up front. They badly need a goal scorer. Injuries or suspensions will rip them apart at a crucial stage of the campaign. They've got to get somebody.
They're going to do this. Because on their day, they can give anyone a good go. I saw them live at Old Trafford with 10 men, and United were poor, yes, but Everton were terrific. They looked really well organised, technically very good, played United off the park for long periods, and then they go and perform like they did against Newcastle or Brentford. This is just the way it's going to be. And a lot of teams, I think the Premier League, we were talking about it before, and I think you're right, it is a strange old season. What Bournemouth did in the first couple of months of the season was phenomenal. You're thinking, oh my God, who's going to stop them? They are battering teams. And then they haven't won now in about, 7-8 games or something like that. So it's, unless you're the big boys, you're going to have this up and down.
Don't you think even with Arsenal, right? I mean, we've done Arsenal today, but I just in terms of this point, Arsenal have been exceptional this season. Absolutely exceptional. They had that run of 9 games in a row where they didn't concede at all, right? They should be streets ahead. 6 points. They should be more than 6 points ahead. They have been exceptional, and yet they're still within striking distance for City, for Villa. Liverpool, actually, I mean, what is it, 12 points or something like that? 12, 14 points?
Yeah, 14.
12 points, 14 points. Liverpool should be 20 points behind them. Liverpool should be 30 points behind them, given how bad Liverpool's season is. It's just really remarkable how it's panned out.
Next up for Everton, it is a home game with Wolves. And one thing I do remember at Goodison that was kind of noticeable in that game yesterday is when it goes against them, it does turn. Although we do see that in a lot of games these days across the league. I'm not saying it's just at Fulham. I'm sure Thomas Frank would say the same. What's going on at Tottenham for him anyway? Probably,
I'm worried for him.
Well, I was going to say a quick word on him. Obviously, you mentioned Brian Robbie's goal, that equaliser for Sunderland at the weekend. Boos once again. Yeah. Boos in the goalless draw at Brentford as well. What you're saying, you're worried for him. I mean, how long has he got then? if you're saying he's worried?
Well, it depends on how much faith the ownership have in him. There's no Daniel Levy anymore. Daniel Levy is the one who made the appointment, but he's not there anymore. So it depends on Vinay Venkatesham and the other members of the Joe Lewis family who have assumed a lot more control at the club, what they want to do. But the fan base, he's lost a lot of the fan base with the style of play, which they perceive to be too negative, with the fact that I think they've only won 11 games at home in this calendar year. In the last calendar year, 2025, with some of the things that he says in press conferences. Now, look, for my money, I think Thomas Frank is a terrific manager and he's earned the right to make the step up from a Brentford to a Tottenham. And that's what our game should be about. We've been talking about Liam Rosenior and the jump he's made from Strasbourg and the fact that he's earned the step up. I think Frank has as well. He did start badly at Bromby. He did badly at Brentford as well. The problem is there's smaller clubs than Spurs. And at Spurs, we've been talking about other big clubs where you don't have much time to make an impact. And if you don't, and it turns, there is concern around your tenure. Well, that's been the case with Frank. And the only way he turns that round is by winning games.
Yeah, I don't think there's any time to panic. I understand the frustration of fans because some of the games have been really poor. And it's a difficult one because they started the season okay, especially away from home. And then home was still becoming a problem, which is what you don't want, really. If any manager wanted to start well, it'd be at home and lose the away game. Because you've got 56, 60,000 plus Tottenham fans turning up, paying good money.
100%.
But you better win your own game. So the pressure at home then built up. They're losing games. And then he had to kind of go, do you know what, we've got to stop losing games. And if that means being boring and pragmatic for a while, going to Palace and nicking a draw and the Brentford game, and what was the one the other day? Sunderland. At least it's a starting point. But I did watch the Palace game, for example, and that was woeful. For the quality they've got, they should be doing more. But they don't have much creativity in midfield. Maddison's a big miss. Kulusevski's a big miss. Solanke leading the line. Because for Richarlison, who I think's got quality and can get you a goal, he's not reliable in his link-up. He's not reliable to play with like Solanke. Kulusevski's been one of Tottenham's best players the last 3 years. And Maddison gives you that bit of magic that, at the moment, Simons isn't giving, although he did improve until he did the stupid tackle on Van Dijk. So they are lacking real cutting edge high up the pitch. And if you're not scoring many goals and not looking a threat, it's hard to keep teams out with the quality they've got in the Prem. But I agree. Give him time, judge him at the end of the season, see where they're at.
So you think he should have that time?
I do.
Because there are a lot of Tottenham fans.
I really do. And I think he's still
willing to do that.
I know they aren't, but how many Arsenal fans wanted Arteta out when they got battered at Brentford? It's he's not ready, he's not good enough, we can't, blah, blah, blah. Look at the job he's doing. I'm not suggesting Tottenham are going to replicate what Arsenal are doing, but what I'm saying is good managers sometimes take a while to implement what they want. And I've seen that from first-hand experience.
And just to underline that, I mean, I've made the point before in the show, Oliver Glasner had one Premier League win in 5 months last season, during the first half of the season. In the second half of the season, absolutely. In today's febrile environment, he could and probably would have gone. But they know what they've got there. And hopefully Spurs will stick by Frank.
Kudus is a blow, isn't it?
Big blow, massive blow. And what do they do? Do they go into the market? What do they do?
Well, they've got wide players. They've got people who can play wide, but...
it doesn't help that they've sold Brennan Johnson now when they had the injury, as you say.
No, but I would imagine they were selling him thinking they're bringing someone in.
Perhaps, yeah.
But I don't think they've got anyone who makes the same impact as Kudus. He's got that Kudus is good enough to earn a move to a bigger club.
Well, the only thing I'd say with that, and I really enjoy watching him play, and at times earlier in the season especially, he was Tottenham's best player. But more recently, his end product hasn't been great. He does things that get you off your seat, and you think, look, his strength and his skill, and he gets you up the pitch. And I think he will score more goals when they've got those more creative players back. But the last month or so, he's not been his normal.
But I wonder if he's been sucked down by the negativity, because, I mean, the onus on this Spurs side right now is to defend rather than to attack.
Yeah, and I think also he's had to play so many minutes.
Yeah, that's the other thing. They've overplayed him as well. But I think that the general mentality of this side isn't to go front foot of this.
Because if you had Kulusevski fit, playing on the right or as a 10, him and Kudus could switch. You got Solanke at the top. A couple of lads fighting it out who plays on the left. Then you've got to find those two midfielders who you're going to settle on. But at the moment, he's limited in his options. And I don't care how good a coach you are. The one thing that's really hard to coach, the hardest, well, you can't coach it, actually. You can set up teams however you like. Somebody looking up, playing a beautiful through ball, somebody finishing a half chance, somebody taking someone on, that's not coachable. That's just quality. You know, De Bruyne looking up going into Haaland's path every week. Pep doesn't teach him how to do that.
No.
Right, well, look, we'll talk more about this, I'm sure, as well as look ahead to what's to come in the midweek Premier League football, because there are 10 games coming your way across the TalkSport network. We'll discuss that next.
£26k for 2026 on TalkSport.
This is Kickoff on TalkSport, and it is Darren Lewis, Danny Murphy, and me, Natalie Sawyer, with you until 10. TalkSport is giving you the chance to win a massive £26,000. That is some way to kick off the new year. At 12 o'clock this Friday lunchtime, we'll be calling one lucky winner with a guaranteed payment made that day. Crikey, that's nice. So you could be the one that pockets that 26 grand. But how do you enter? You might want a pen and paper for this. You could simply... I have to say it because the phone number is not the easiest to remember. But you could text it. The word win to 83338. So that's text the word win to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or you can call this number. Ready? 0343 423 9761. Thank you. 0343 423 9761. Lines close at 12 p.m. on Friday, and that's when you'll need to be available to answer your phone if it rings. It's only for UK residents only, 18 and over. This is a network promotion, in full T's and C's can be found at talksport.com/win. So a reminder, simply, if you text the word win to 83338, you can enter. Good luck. You're right there, having a little shiver.
You get the odd shit. They say someone walking over.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it, but yeah.
It's swinging.
Oh, put your phone down. For goodness sake, we're still working here.
You don't need 2 lots of 26 grand a month.
You can't enter because you work for TalkSport.
No, he's a freelancer.
You know what? The T's
agent.
and C's will tell us he can't enter. I'm sure about that. But anyway, as we've already mentioned, all 10 Premier League games in this midweek are going to be live across the TalkSport network, starting with West Ham tomorrow as they take on Nottingham Forest at the London Stadium, and it ends with Arsenal against Liverpool on Thursday night. Number of ways you can tune into it. You can find some of those games here on TalkSport. Some will be on TalkSport 2. Some will be on Talk Radio, like Crystal Palace against Aston Villa. That on Wednesday night, or you can find them all via the TalkSport app as well. Just download that and then go to the requirement of the game that you want or the station that you want, and you can find it all there. So it's going to be cracking, that is for sure. I wanted to just quickly talk about Tottenham because they head to Bournemouth, 2 teams who are obviously in a dire straits. I think they haven't won in 11 now, Bournemouth. But I just quickly wanted to ask, do you think with Thomas Frank, he's trying to, you mentioned already the lack of options up front, creativity. Do you think, therefore, he's maybe trying to be more pragmatic because he's trying to sort the defence out? Because they conceded a lot of goals last season. So is that one, sometimes you've got to start back?
I think when you start losing games, especially at home, you've got to plug the leaks. Yeah. And if it means you get a bit of criticism for a while trying to be harder to beat, then so be it. I think he's made some bad decisions in team selections at times, just from what I've seen, but that's going to happen when you're new to a team and learning about the players. Also, we don't get, and the fans don't get, to see the physical condition of the players at training, who's training well and what the numbers are saying, all those things. I think things will get better. I'm not sure they'll get better really quickly. I think it is going to take a bit of time. But they've got to, while they're going through this spell, keep showing some fight, not losing games. And they're going to have a fight at Bournemouth because, irrelevant of Bournemouth's bad run in terms of results, the last performances I've seen have been a team fighting for the manager, really going after games, trying to win them. Really, at Chelsea, should have been way ahead by half-time. I did the game. They were outstanding in the first half. Could have been 2 or 3 up. Managed to get a point, which is a good point. Gave Arsenal a run for the money. And if they play anywhere near to like they did against Arsenal, Tottenham are going to struggle.
When I saw Bournemouth play Brentford just a week or so ago and they lost 4-1, I remember again seeing reaction from Bournemouth fans who were saying they were hopeless, and they were way beyond, or way below Bournemouth standards, I would imagine. I mean, some of them looked very disinterested. And then I saw a lot of the Bournemouth fans saying, well, it's not surprising the way that we are playing right now because there is a lot of uncertainty at the club. No one knows what's going to happen with Andoni Iraola. He's out of contract come this summer.
Semenyo.
Obviously, there's the Semenyo situation. No doubt there are probably other Bournemouth players who are being looked at, perhaps being considered. You never know. Does that also help or not help? Does that hinder a club when you're in that situation?
I think it can, but no, I don't think it does on this occasion. I think what happened is Bournemouth had a brilliant couple of months, getting loads of good results by playing a certain way. They are very, very intense on the press, and they play a high line and they go after teams. And like all good coaches and managers, they watch a team, they do it home and away, and they go, right, that's what we're going to do. We're going to actually make a plan for Bournemouth today. We're not just going to trust that we're better than them. We're going to make a plan because this is what they're doing week in, week out. And we're going to respect them, and then we're going to change our game. I think Villa gave them a good hiding. You gave them a good hiding. United scored 4 against them, although Bournemouth got 4 against them.
Yeah.
It's because of how intense they are and how forward-thinking he is in terms of trying to win games. He leaves himself wide open. And other managers, I think, in the last 6-8 weeks, have made plans to counteract it. And that's football. We've seen it time and time again. You have some success, team will work out why, and then all of a sudden, you'll come up against teams doing different things against you, and you get different problems. And that's why you see teams who aren't in the top 4, top 3, have these roller coasters of good moments, good momentum, and then, because every week, you've got studious guys, 6, 7 of them, each Premier League club watching Bournemouth's last 6 games, Brighton's last 6 games, this is what they're doing. This is what we've got to stop before we can do on. All of it. That's the great thing now in the Premier League. All these tacticians and intelligent minds coming together. I think Bournemouth have just been a little bit found out.
Right.
And it's great to be on the front foot for moments in the game. But Bournemouth sometimes got to go, actually. Do we need to dig in it?
Yeah.
Well, Bournemouth Tottenham is available on Wednesday via the TalkSport app. And I mentioned the last game of the midweek action is at the Emirates. It's Arsenal against Liverpool. Clearly, Manchester City and Aston Villa, if they get the job done in their earlier games in the week, they'll be hoping Liverpool can get something out of this. Are they more than capable, this current Liverpool team?
Well, you would say Arsenal are strong favourites based on current form, but Liverpool have dug out some results and not lost many recently. I don't think they've lost in, 8 now? 9, is it 8? I think top players tend to raise their game against other top teams. Now, Liverpool's probably best performance in terms of defensively and full package was when they beat Arsenal with a Szoboszlai free kick at Anfield. I make Arsenal favourites. Don't think Liverpool look strong enough, and they've only got limited options up top. Ekitike, Isak, Salah all missing. So I think Arsenal will be too strong. But if Liverpool, with the quality they've got and the international experience, well, just experience and the mentality of those players, it wouldn't surprise me to see a really tight game. A bit like when United have been struggling and they go to Anfield and produce a performance. You know, we've seen that how many times in the last couple of seasons.
Absolutely.
These players have some pride, and it's like, hold on. I was talking to someone outside before, and it sounds a bit flippant and arrogant and disrespectful, but when Liverpool turn up at Fulham, and you're the champions, although they know Fulham are a good side, they probably go on the pitch thinking, we'll beat these. We can beat these. Look at the players around me. You don't do that when you go to Arsenal. You think, if we're not at it, we're going to get done.
Yeah.
So top players just go, bum, and raise. So I don't think it'll be what some people think, which is Arsenal dominate them. I think Liverpool will dig in. And I think we'll see a clever performance. I think Arsenal dominate possession probably at home, and Liverpool will play counter. But I still think Arsenal will nick it.
Well, that
Not nick it, but edge it.
We'll win.
Yeah.
Arsenal Liverpool then, that is exclusive to TalkSport on Thursday. And just to let you know, with regards to the title race, Manchester City are at home to Brighton on Wednesday. That is on the TalkSport app. And Aston Villa head to Crystal Palace. That one on Talk Radio. That is it for us this Monday night. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
See you very soon. When that is, I don't know. On the way next, it is the Sports Bar. So why not get your calls in to Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy? 03 717 22 3344.